peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning to you, and thank you for finding time to being with us this morning. The show is Good Morning Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and it is a pleasure to have you on board. Before I bring in my panelist, I'd like to take us through the headlines this morning by going through the leading newspapers in the country. Under the Standard newspaper, the main headline, Pandora Uhuru Raila turntables. The president and his handshake partners seem to be reading from the same script, declaring that leaks will lift a veil of secrecy and unmask those unable to explain their wealth. The story is on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. 20 years in jail for a man who shot Ranalo's Osewe. Businessman Ton Oyua Boya, who shot the owner of Ranalo restaurant, William Osewe, in the dock at Milimani Court. Boya was convicted of shooting Osewe on December 1st at a club on Thika Road. Yesterday, he was jailed for 20 years without the option of a fine. The story is on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. And then, reclaiming Rumba rhythms, Congo's right to UNESCO. The story is on page 5. And Alama's Kenya speeds towards a 9 trillion Kenya shillings debt ceiling. The story is on page 8. And Pope's shame at child sex abuse. The story is on page 28. And if you have heard of what has been happening internationally, I think over 200,000 children who have been sexually abused by a priest and a nun in France. So that is the latest scandal to plague the Catholic Church internationally. So if you've been watching any news from the international media houses, that has been trending for a while now. And then we turn our attention to the Star newspaper. The main headline is Anxiety Rocks Kalonzo Turf over 2022 poll plan. His general election strategy has become a point of concern. The story is on page 6 of the Star newspaper. And school heads defy Magoha's fees order ahead of second term reopening next week. The story is on page 4 and 5. And Ruto to tour Laikipia County on Saturday. Deputy President William Ruto is decorated by elders after meeting grassroots leaders from Emurua Dikir in Kilgoris, Narok County yesterday. That is the caption over the main pictorial on the Star newspaper. Moses Kuria says he is recovering well after electric blanket bans. The story is on page 2. And Al-Shabaab attack fears impede mass voter listing in Lamu villages. The story is on page 22 of the Star newspaper. The Daily Nation, the main headline, new faces in Raila's inner circle, road to 2022 elections. President Kenyatta's key supporters in Jubilee set to join ODM leaders' election secretariat, comprising politicians, academicians, civil society actors, and church leaders, among others. The story is on page 4. And then Osewe's sweet revenge, man who shot Ranalo Foods owner in 2016, gets 23 years in prison. Storm over UDA party list. Disgruntled members protested the list of 31 officials, saying it was not satisfactory. The story is on page 5. And then hundreds of state officers have stashed cash abroad as the nation awaits President Kenyatta's comprehensive statement on his family's wealth held in offshore accounts. It has emerged that at least 400 state public officers have opened such accounts over the last decade, while the Constitution declares that a state or public officer shall not maintain a bank account outside Kenya, the 12th Parliament diluted the principle when it enacted the Leadership and Integrity Act with exceptions. The story is on page 7 of the Daily Nation. So that is what we have on the front pages of our leading newspapers this morning. I'm joined by Sharon Gitonga from Nairobi. Sharon, nice to see you this morning, and a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Miriam, back at the headquarters in Nairobi. My co-panelist Samuel Tawish, and to all our viewers watching across the continent. It is a pleasure to be part of this morning segment show. Good morning.
All right, good morning and karibu sana. And we're also joined by Samuel Tawish. Tawish, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Miriam Gutu. Good morning to Sharon Gitonga, and of course, all our viewers who are watching this program. It's a pleasure to join you on this program. Good morning.
All right, good morning to you. And I'm sure you've been listening to the headlines this morning, and I think I will start with where we stopped, and that is that, storm over UDA party list. Disgruntled members protested the list of 31 officials. I think yesterday we were having that conversation here. I think 31 officials who were set up a committee to start preparing and strategizing on, a DP Ruto election next year. All right, so the story is on page 5 of the Daily Nation. A storm has erupted in Deputy President William Ruto's United Democratic Alliance over a new list of party officials yesterday. Some disgruntled members protested that the list of 31 officials filed with the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties was not satisfactory. UDA Chairman Johnston Muthama on Tuesday said the officials will be members of the party's National Executive Committee, an organ with a say in party elections and nominations. Now, the protests were acrimonious that Secretary General Veronica Maina, in an attempt to calm members, reportedly posted a statement in a party members' WhatsApp group contesting the list published by The Nation yesterday. The party wishes to confirm that the list is not an accurate reflection of the actual representation of the party officials, as says Ms. Maina. When contracted, she did not, however, respond to inquiries about the statement which some UDA members sent to The Nation. This seems to be the same issues, Tawish, that these members, former members of, well, they're still members of Jubilee technically, had with Jubilee Party, but there seems to have, now they're plagued with similar issue on UDA Party about representation and all that. What do you make of this?
Thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you, Sharon, and of course to our viewers who are watching this program this morning. Indeed, Miriam, we had issued an alert that it was not going to be rosy for Deputy President William Ruto's UDA party by virtue of the fact that they had not made elaborate arrangements really to have elections of the party officials. So the hand-picked officials obviously was something that was going to prompt the kind of disgruntlement that you're now witnessing in the United Democratic Alliance, or UDA if you like. And I think this is something that Deputy President William Ruto and most of those politicians coalescing around him really should contend with, that it's not easy really to carry out with these party elections or even grassroots election, if that may be. Because again, you've noticed in the past, even the Jubilee Party itself has not been able, ever since its inception, has not been able really to carry out, the election of its party officials from the grassroots to the national. In itself, therefore, it's not an easy task. It's an uphill task, if I should put it that way, that Deputy President William Ruto is facing in the UDA Party, because again, there are those people who have been coalescing around him in the hope that maybe they're going to be given these positions or party positions, because they know once you get these party positions, then it gives you an upper hand when it comes to nominations to various political seats that maybe aspirants will be contesting for. So it is something that it's going to, prompt a lot of reaction from the UDA supporters, more so the politicians who have been around the Deputy President, hoping that they will be nominated or handpicked to be the party officials in this particular newly formed UDA party. Miriam, I submit.
All right, thank you. And now, South Mugirango Member of Parliament, Silvanus Osoro, at first dismissed the list, even though he acknowledged Kisii region deserves the national treasurer position, which was backed by his predecessor, Omengo Magara. But when confronted with a copy of the list of officials received by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, Mr. Osoro replied, "Good." Muranga Senator Irungu Kangata said Ms. Minor, the UDA Secretary General, had issued a formal statement denouncing the list of the party officials. So we see almost similar characters that were raising the same issues when they were in Jubilee Party are the same ones who are having a problem in here. Are you surprised by what is happening now in UDA Party? And they're disgruntled, apparently, by the officials that have been forwarded to the Registrar of Political Parties, Sharon Gitonga. This bad behavior seems to have carried on to UDA Party as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miriam and Tawish, for your sentiments. And indeed, it doesn't come as a big surprise from what is happening in UDA. And, I can hint that we have, there's much more. You just seen recently that most of the UDA, rather Jubilee set of supporters are, now moving into ODM. So there's, I would like to call it trouble in paradise, as it appears. But again, I would love to look at these on a different perspective, even where the 31 officials are set. And I think the deputy president is not being honest with himself, and he's not walking the talk. I actually expected him to select or rather endorse at least even in the list have some mamambogas, boda guys, and probably also other hustlers, since according to his narrative, they're the ones to deliver the nation, the hustler narrative. And if I look at how the former Prime Minister Raila holds everyone with so much respect, and gives a room to all opinions and not narratives. So I think it's not the end of the trail, and I believe there's so much more. We expect to see so much reshuffling as far as Jubilee and UDA is concerned. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. Another story on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Raila assembles new inner circle with Uhuru allies for 2022 contest. ODM leader Raila Odinga hosts his allies for a 3-day retreat as from today, even as he assembles a new inner circle to accommodate President Kenyatta's team that is backing his presidential campaign. Mr. Odinga is walking a new political path, cobbling together a fresh team of strategists that includes members of the ruling party who have allied themselves to President Kenyatta, who reportedly prefers his candidacy over that of his rebel deputy William Ruto. The ODM boss has invited his close associates for the meeting that ends on Saturday at the Great Rift Valley Lodge in Naivasha. Well, it was expected, I suppose. Samuel Tawish. Tawish. All right, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miriam, for that question. And indeed, I think it was expected, just like I have just mentioned. And, it's safe to say that a day in politics is an entire, is an eternity. And I believe, from the look of things, the deputy president, I don't know if I would be, to be safe to say that he's slowly becoming irrelevant in public as we approach, towards the end of the 2 terms in government with 0 scorecards in development. So I think it's a good move when we have, when we have the said politicians, the set of politicians from the Jubilee camp, coming to ODM. I think for me it's a good move, and I welcome more, for us to, if we do whatever it takes, to deliver this nation.
Okay. All right, to deliver this nation. Are we that badly off that we need deliverers? I think we're doing okay under the circumstances, no? Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I can't say we are really doing bad, but it's clear, from where I sit, it's only the ODM's manifesto that is going to deliver ultimate victory. So
that is resonating. Okay.
Yes.
All right, very well. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
and looking at the fact that we are staring at an economic crisis, and from what I've heard, he's the only one who is giving a reasonable giving economic solutions to economic problems. I think we are headed the right direction. Yeah.
Well, ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi also have ideas on how he plans to revive this economy. But anyway, ODM leader set to declare his presidential bid after concluding his nationwide Azimio la Umoja meetings this month. And is quoted as saying, "I've not decided if I will vie. Currently, I'm consulting with Kenyans, and when I conclude it, that's when I'll make a decision." Samuel Tawish, can you hear me? Good morning. Very well, we seem to have lost Tawish, so when he comes back, then we will continue. So I'd like for us to look at something else, perhaps that has to do with, is it politics or what? But there's a story.
Yes.
All right. Okay, we apologize for that. So now Raila is set to meet with members of parliament allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta Jubilee Party starting today. I think they'll have a 3-day consultative meeting. And Raila is saying that he will officially declare his presidency after he concludes the nationwide consultation, Azimio la Umoja meeting, he's calling it like that. So he said, "I've not decided if I will vie. And currently I'm consulting with Kenyans, and when I conclude it, that's when I'll make a decision." It's very interesting political times that we're living in today. Who would have thought Raila will be consulting with Jubilee members of parliament about his possible working relation, even as he prepares to vie for the presidency of this country?
Sure, Miriam. I think it is an open secret that ODM, and through its leadership, Raila Amolo Odinga, are working hand in hand with the Jubilee Party that is led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. That is something that is now in the public domain. It is open. And I think they've made their pronouncements to that effect, that they are actually working on an arrangement or a formula within which they are going to work as we head into 2022 general election, Miriam. Second point regards, of course, that question as to whether Raila Odinga will be contesting for presidency or not, and why he's taking so much time really to declare his candidature. I think virtue of common sense really has it that Raila Odinga will be contesting for presidency. I think he's just trying to be strategic enough not to make it known early enough, because again he understands they are the opponents really who are waiting eagerly for Raila Odinga to declare his candidature so that they can begin all manner of propaganda and attacks that will be targeting Raila Odinga. So he's trying just to buy time, but ultimately what I'm sure is the culmination of the Azimio la Umoja chorus that Raila Odinga is carrying out in various parts of the country. You've seen him in Laikipia, in parts of central Kenya, of course. You've seen him in Nakuru, you've seen him in Kisii, you've seen him in Masai Land, you've also seen him, of course, of the coastal region, and very lately you've seen him in northeastern region. In itself, Miriam really is trying to tell Kenyans that he's trying to consult with his support base or the bastion, and even the newly found bastion, so that he can get to understand exactly whether he has enough or he has enough support base or backing for him to go for the presidency. But all indications are, Miriam, Raila Odinga is obviously having those endorsements and support coming from all the forums that you've seen him actually go. The last time I saw the likes of course, Senator for Narok Ledama Olekina, the former speaker, you remember Lekaparo, and other leaders drawn from that region, including cabinet secretary for the environment, that is Keriako Tobiko. Those are high-profile individuals who come from that region, really. Declaring their support for Raila Odinga. The same happened in northeastern region. The same has been happening in central Kenya, where you've seen a sizable number of elected leaders, especially governors and MPs and some senators, and even business moguls really coming to back Raila Odinga's candidature. So it is almost obvious that Raila Odinga will be vying for presidency, only that is buying time strategically enough
to declare maybe at the opportune moment. I submit.
All right, thank you so much. Of course, if you're joining us, this is Good Morning Africa, and we're looking at what is making headlines this morning on the leading papers in the country. So we just looked at the Daily Nation, so now let's turn our attention to the Star newspaper. And the main headline on the Star newspaper, anxiety rocks Kalonzo turf over a 2022 poll plan. The story is on page 6. I promise you we'll be done with politics in just a little bit, and then we look at other matters. And anxiety has rocked Wiper boss Kalonzo Musyoka's Ukambani backyard over lack of a clear 2022 political game plan, even as other political bigwigs raid his staff 2 months after he launched a command center to spearhead his presidential bid. Kalonzo's political machine is yet to take off. The One Kenya alliance that brings together Kalonzo and 3 other party leaders, Musalia Mudavadi of ANC, Gideon Moi of KANU, and Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya, is equally running out of steam. The leaders are pulling in different directions, and the chances of a joint presidential flag bearer remain to be seen. There are also concerns that Gideon favors ODM leader Raila Odinga's presidential bid, and it is for this reason he invited him for the KANU National Delegates Conference last week. Apart from Musalia, who has had some political engagements, OKA is yet to hit the campaign trail. So what is happening there to Kalonzo Musyoka, as the writer of this story has rightfully reminded us? He launched his presidential bid. Remember when President Uhuru Kenyatta was meant to go launch some developmental initiatives in Ukambani? So he made sure that he did that, I think, on a Monday, and the president went there on a Tuesday. And since then, his campaign machine has not taken off yet. So what is happening with Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, a senior counsel? Tawish. Go ahead, Sharon.
Thank you very much, Miriam. But, it's very clear, and it's a clear indication that at the end of the day, this is going to be a two-horse ride, and all other parties, including every other party, if to mention, are just angling and not to win the presidential bid, but to be on the negotiating table. And I can categorically say, as long as they are all having a conversation with ODM, it's just for negotiating. And I believe during the KANU's launch, they hinted at the end of the day, despite the deficit of trust, it is clear that at the end of the day, they are all going to culminate to joining under ODM and forming a coalition. So I believe that is exactly what is going to happen. And Kalonzo is just, it's high time that, he just concedes the defeat and, I submit.
Okay, concedes the defeat. Samuel Tawish, you've had these conversations here since the inception of OKA, which we have to keep reminding our viewers has not formalized even its a coalition pact, and has not done that yet. It is something. It is still an idea, and you can see the leaders have been pulling in different directions, but especially Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, who even after launching his presidential bid there, he has not done much in terms of pursuing or aggressively starting to campaign or to popularize his presidential bid for next year. So he seems very lost in the mix of all the political dynamics we've seen in the recent in the recent times in the country. But as much as that has not taken off, me and you and the rest of the panelists, I think we didn't see this taking off. So how is it that they did not have that foresight? Tawish. Okay, Sharon. Sharon. All right, we are having a bit of an issue there from our...
Miriam, something wrong with my internet or what? Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you hear the question? Did you get
No, I think along the way it fizzled out. I couldn't quite hear you.
So what I'm saying,
the way,
all right, yes. So all of us knew that this OKA flight was never going to take off, but the leader seems to have had a vision that since has not materialized yet. How is it they lacked the oversight or the foresight to see that this OKA was just not going anywhere?
Well, Miriam, what we understand, and I think having been analyzing this politics for quite some time, and more so the recent just birthed One Kenya Alliance, you will understand that these are more like just the eggs which needs to be put into the incubator for them to actually hatch the chicks. And if you let these eggs just scattered, if you cannot gather them together and put them in one incubator with enough warmth and temperature and humidity, then by the end of the day, you're not going to get the chicks, or the chicks are not going to be hatched. I think it's as basic as that. I'm giving that analogy to try and, of course, build up my point on the lack of effective strategy on the part of the One Kenya Alliance. I think this focus is more on Kalonzo Musyoka and why he's not so much coming out fully to demonstrate his agility, his ability and capacity, really even to fly the flag of the One Kenya Alliance. I think last time I did challenge that Kalonzo needs a lot of strategizing, or rather re-strategizing. He needs a very serious rebranding as an individual, and also to go back to his support base of Ukambani or Lower Eastern, if you like, to really consolidate the support base from that region before he can even go to the negotiating table in the One Kenya Alliance formation. Because, of course, you listened to Mudavadi just speaking the other day that for him to have an upper hand to fly the flag of the One Kenya Alliance, the people who are drawn from his backyard or from his, of course, ethnic community have to register in numbers. In itself, it tells you that these are the tools or arsenals he'll be using to go and bargain for the ticket of the One Kenya Alliance. And I think it's a very big challenge to Kalonzo as well. You have Kalonzo coming from a region where almost all the governors, including one in Makueni, Kivuta Kibwana, Ngilo of Kitui, and Alfred Mutua of Machakos, having declared their interest really to contest for presidency. And if at all Kalonzo is not going to tread carefully in this particular situation, then it's going to be muddy for him. It's not going to be easy for him really to consolidate the support base in that region. I think he has to go back to the drawing board, speak to the leadership, to the other leadership of that region, to see into it how they can face the coming election as a united front. Because again, if they go disunited, as we are seeing, there's a probability or the potential of them going disunited. Then the chances of Kalonzo Musyoka making it even as the presidential candidate for One Kenya Alliance, or even running mate, or even becoming relevant in the 2022 general election are almost zero, Miriam. You also understand that those who have been financially supporting Kalonzo Musyoka, the likes of former Senator from Machakos, Johnston Nduya Mudhama, withdrew their support. David Musila, they withdrew their support. Now their support, like the likes of Mudhama, are supporting Deputy President William Ruto. In fact, Mudhama is the chairperson of the newly formed United Democratic Alliance, UDA. In itself, Miriam, it tells you that Kalonzo is really facing an uphill task in his home area. He needs to go back and try to talk to other leadership, or to the entire leadership of that particular region, to see how they can speak in one voice and read from the same script. In itself, it will give them more credence in terms of bargaining power when they get into the negotiating table, and as far as the One Kenya Alliance flag bearer is concerned. But as it is now, I think Kalonzo is working more like somebody who is not quite sure already to face the other opponents in the presidential ballot come 2022. I submit, Miriam.
All right. And before I just leave this matter to rest, perhaps, when they were leaving, because we know that Kalonzo's party, Wiper Party, was the first one to register its discomfort by what ODM was doing, which they termed unfair. Remember the coalition money that they're not getting, other coalition members were not getting when they were in NASA. And so Wiper is the one who started the process of exiting, NASA. And then, of course, we saw other members, other parties coming out. Do you think perhaps this could have been a miscalculation in the aspect of maybe Kalonzo thought when he could marshal these other members, NC leader and Ford Kenya leaders, and have them form another coalition without Raila there, perhaps he stood a better chance and a better prospect of being the flag bearer, maybe because of his seniority when Raila is not there, and other factors that perhaps favored him in a coalition that Raila was not, included, and that might have backfired on him. Do you think that was perhaps the intention?
Certainly, Miriam, you're right. Indeed, this was a miscalculation on the part of the former NASA, of course, affiliate party, And I think it was this enormous exit from NASA was driven by false hope and false advertisement that perhaps by moving out of NASA, they will be, of course, rebranding. They'll be having a new strategy. They will be coming out to negotiate freely and afresh. But that has since not kicked off. You can clearly see even Raila himself was so strategic, and you can never wish him away. In fact, at a time when the other NASA affiliate parties were still in the NASA, just after I think Wiper had withdrawn, you saw Raila Odinga's ODM-led party really coming out to a surprise of many to pull out of NASA and left it to the likes of ANC and of course Ford Kenya and others. So they had no choice but equally to pull out of NASA. But I think just like the reality strikes, Miriam, these individuals, including even Raila Odinga himself, they have no choice at all. The only choice and option they have is to work together. I can tell you that, and that is something you can take to the bank. If all these presidential candidates, for heaven's sake, choose to go separately to towards the next year's general election, then these individuals will be hanged separately. That is why we've always implored on these individuals. If they really have the interest of the people of Kenya at heart, they still but have to compromise and come and work together for the benefit of the people of Kenya. But if you have everybody just stamping, everybody saying they are the ones who are going to be the flag bearers, it is one thing to be a flag bearer, it's one thing to be in the ballot, but it's another thing to become to win that particular election. Do these all presidential candidates have the charisma? Really, do they have enough persuasion? Do they have enough financial muscle, each of them, really to be able to tilt the scale in their favor? I do not think so. In the previous elections, we have had the likes of Martha Karua contesting. We've had the likes of Peter Kenneth. We've had the likes of Abdul Badida. We've had the likes of Jeff Kaluyu, you can remember. And by the end of the day, Miriam, the votes were counted. So there's a reality when it comes to politics, more so when it comes to the presidential contest, which these politicians have to contend with, I submit.
Okay. And in the disbursement, before the last question on this matter, after NASA was done away with, I think on Raila's part, that seems to have freed him, because when he was in NASA, his hands seems to have been tied. He couldn't freely even associate with the Jubilee Party or other people perhaps he had intentions of making coalitions with or finding a working relations. So I think in the disbursement of NASA, his prospects seems to be working on so well, and these other ones, they seem lost in the mix of it all. So who would you say, was the ultimate winner, or is the ultimate winner after, this NASA was disbanded, Sharon?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And from, the look of things, it's clear that, the former Prime Minister is definitely the ultimate winner. And, just to sum it all up to all other parties, clearly at the end of the day, they have to, team up and, join together and work and let's say ODM, and just for the interest of people and not for the interest of not for their own interest. So I think at the end of the day, regardless of what has happened and having losers and what I think at the end of the day it will culminate to all these parties coming together and working all together for the interest of people.
All right.
But then again, a challenge for Kalonzo. I think you could maybe start by vying as a gubernatorial, for a gubernatorial seat. Maybe in that case, he'll be able to test waters, from the grassroots. Because I feel like, contending for a presidential seat, that's a whole
But
elephant.
He's tested the waters before he was a member of parliament. I'm sure Tawish can remind us of where for quite a while. So, yes.
Miriam, the only time or moment that Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka has ever pulled the police and surprised him as far as the politics is concerned in this country was in 2007. Sorry?
In 2007, wakati alipita katikati, or is that what you wanted to say?
Yes, he pita katikati, and you remember that was more opportunistic, and that is how it was sent. Yeah. Ever since, I think, even working with Raila Odinga in 2013 and 2017, I mean, most analysts described it as more of convenience, but not really a purpose. So because he had no choice, he had no option but just to work with Raila, because again, he had been left out in the cold by other hopefuls whom he thought were going to work with him. But for Raila Odinga is a man who has always come out mysteriously. In 2007, you remember he contested against President Kibaki then. Many thought maybe they were not going to see eye to eye. They ended up working in the Grand Coalition government. I mean, in 2013, he lost, but he accepted the defeat. In 2017, we saw what happened when people thought he was going to continue the demonstration and street demos. I mean, he sat down and had a handshake with President Uhuru Kenyatta, pulling surprises, pleasant for that matter, every other moment. And I think that is what maybe other presidential hopefuls more so, who are drawn from the opposition, do not have. You cannot quite compare them with Raila Odinga. So Raila Odinga has an edge, he has an upper hand. And ever since, of course, they pulled out of NASA, you've seen, Raila Odinga has continued to be more relevant than even the other colleagues in NASA formation. Musalia Mudavadi, you will hardly hear him. So is Wetangula, and the person we have just been speaking about, Kalonzo Musyoka. So they just but have to come back.
Okay, all right, and we'll wait here.
Kalonzo's very inconsistent. I would not be surprised if he wakes up tomorrow and decides to join.
Maybe that nature and that perception that people have about him has costed him even politically.
Exactly.
He's not known to be. He can make up his mind and he can have a strong political backbone, if I may put it like that.
Yeah. And if he's not able to and that political acumen, then definitely no one is going to entrust him from the previous happenings that have been. He's very inconsistent and it is costing him at the moment. And I think that's why every Kenyan is concerned about his political status.
Okay. Or maybe he's very consistent with his nature and how he's been playing his politics. He's a bit opportunistic. He's a typical Kenyan politician. Anyway, all right, let's leave that matter. We shall be here and seeing how the One Kenya Alliance coalition will pan out, and if at all Kalonzo, his political ambition of becoming the president of the Republic of Kenya, as he had launched his presidential bid, that flight, if at all that will take off. And if it does, we'll be here to report it. All right, ODM leader Raila Odinga is set to storm Deputy President William Ruto's Rift Valley backyard next week to woo the region to back his 2022 presidential bid. The former Prime Minister has planned a series of activities to market the Azimio la Umoja campaign. Raila will make his first stop in Turkana, where he is expected to meet ODM delegates and address residents. He will then head to Eldoret to meet party delegates from West Pokot, Uasin Gishu, Elgeyo Marakwet and Nandi counties. The Azimio la Umoja Brigade will thereafter head to Nakuru for similar meetings and will be joined by delegates from Kericho and Bomet. How do you see that meeting happening there in the Rift Valley? What's the expected reception, Samuel?
Thank you so much, Miriam. I'll quite tell you that Raila Odinga is going to have quite a very good reception in most parts of these regions. Remember, he's been commanding, of course, support, or for example, in Turkana, of course, Governor Nanok having been elected as an MP in that particular region twice, and Governor, I think, he's serving in second and last term in office as Governor, and a sizable number of MPs and politicians who reign from that region really have been coalescing around Raila Odinga for far too long. And it's evident that even when you go into records, the 2013, 2007, 2017 general election, Miriam, indeed the records have it that Raila Odinga backed more of the votes in, say, Turkana region. In itself, this is one of the regions that Raila Odinga will be focusing more so at a time when his lieutenant turned 4, who is now supporting Deputy President William Ruto, the Governor Nanok, has, of course, turned the heat on Raila Odinga, is now supporting Deputy President William Ruto. It will be interesting, really, to see how Raila Odinga will be able to to sustain or maintain his fortunes in the Turkana community. But away from that, of course, you've spoken about the larger Rift Valley region, and the focus is more on the Kalenjin ethnic community as to whether Raila Odinga will have a very good reception in, say, Uasin Gishu, where Deputy President William Ruto reigns from. It is important for us to underscore the fact that it is very important for all the candidates and every region really to embrace any of the presidential candidates who come to sell their ideologies and policies and agendas and manifestos they have to the people, so that by the end of the day, nobody says I wasn't given a chance, I wasn't listened to, and that is why maybe people did not vote for me. The kind of intolerance that we have, that has characterized our politics for far too long, is something that we want to disabuse. We do not want to see it being entertained anymore. In that Raila Odinga can go and campaign in Uasin Gishu, he can even go to Tarbo, he can even go to Sugoi and campaign without any undue interference or intimidation or somebody stopping such kind of rallies in those particular places. So it will be interesting. It's a kind of watch and see, Miriam, really to see how the Kalenjin nation is going to embrace, of course, Raila Odinga, because you've seen other presidential candidates, including Deputy President William Ruto himself. He was just in Migori the other time. I perceived the Raila Odinga bastion, but he was warmly welcomed. He spoke to the people. He sold his hustler narrative. He did so much of fundraising and around this. He spoke to the people of that region. But I think this is what needs to be resonated in other regions. We do not want to see the kind of intolerance or people becoming really violent towards presidential candidates whom they perceive do not come from their region. So it is going to be very, very interesting and really to see whether Raila can get some votes in that region of Uasin Gishu. And remember also, like I said, the issue to do with the history and records. Uasin Gishu, to some extent, has voted Raila Odinga in thousands of votes. So maybe this time round, it depends on how he's going to strategically place himself and how he's going to address the interest of the people of that particular place. Because election is about interest. Is there something that really bedevils that region? Is there something that the farmers from that region want to address that Raila Odinga perhaps could be having an answer to? If that is the question, then you are likely going to see maybe him tilting the scales in his favor in as far as the Kalenjin nation is concerned and the larger Rift Valley, the former larger Rift Valley province is concerned. I submit.
Okay. Now, Sharon, Tawish has brought up the issue of political tolerance that we've seen across the country. Of course, there have been some instances where we've seen not very good scenes when certain politicians visit certain areas, but over time, the last few months, perhaps you've seen a bit of change of that. And so there are areas where, some politicians will not really visit, but we've seen that change. And so is that what is likely to be seen, even as Raila plans to visit DP Ruto's staff in the next coming few days?
Thank you very much, Miriam, and of course, Tawish, for your sentiments. And I think first things first, it should not, be stated as it being a war in the deputy president's camp, because I believe that's what democracy is all about. Anyone can move to any part of the country and to sell their manifestos and agendas. And people, it's high time everyone really understands this, that we identical and tribal politics. We are not going anywhere, and it's high time, I believe, we should embrace ethnicity and continue preaching the appreciating the beauty of diversity and appreciating appreciating the beauty of diversity, and I believe that is what we all need to be educated all about. And as Tawish has also mentioned, it's going to be quite interesting, and let's wait and see it happens. Right. But from the look of things, I think we've seen him go to the least expected counties like Mount Kenya, and there was a very warm reception. So I don't expect anything lower than that.
All right.
I submit.
Okay, and we'll be here to report what happens, okay, as usual. Okay, so now we are done with politics for today. Let's turn our attention to other stories that are of national interest. On page 8 of the Star newspaper, fuel users paid 1 billion Kenya shillings for ship clearance delays, documents have shown. Now, Kenyans are forking out millions when fueling their cars to pay for delayed clearance of crude oil at the Mombasa port, known in the gas industry as demurrage charges. Documents under review of the National Assembly Finance Committee revealed that in the first 6 months of this year, taxpayers paid up to 1 billion Kenya shillings following the delays. On average, Kenyans pay 30 million Kenya shillings for every ship that docks with fuel. and amid claims that owners of the shipping vessels are being paid to delay. Are we together until that point? Okay. Now, the losses are then transferred to motorists and other fuel users for every litre they buy at the pump, putting Kenya Ports Authority and Kenya Pipeline Company on the spot. MPs during inquiry sought that KPA fast tracks the completion of the Kipevu Oil Terminal 2 to eliminate the demurrage cost. It also revealed that ships that dock at night are not offloaded until the next day, hence take longer at the port. In the period covering January-February, the government paid 261 million Kenya shillings at KPC and KPA personnel delayed clearing cargo. And so I think we'll just leave that story there. But I'd like to hear your reaction on this story. So apparently, these ships, every time they dock there, it is paid 30 million Kenya shillings for the ones that dock with fuel. And there are claims that owners of the shipping vessels are being paid to delay the vessels. I think they're colluding with KPC and KPA personnel there. And then, of course, that cost, that corruption is transferred to us, and we get to foot that bill. Your reaction, Samuel Tawish? Sharon?
Thank you. And I think it trickles down to, impunity and corruption. And I don't know for how long we are going, to talk about corruption without having, action being taken forth. And I think looking forward, I think it's high time we have. We see action, being taken against the act of corruption. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Tawish, are you there? Okay. Tawish seems to be having a bit of a problem with his connection this morning. I apologize for that. But when he's able to give his opinion on this, I'd really love to hear what he has to say. And just on the same page, just up there, Nyakango calls for audit of billions donated to the Ministry of Health. Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakango now wants a special audit done on the billions of shillings donated to the state through the Ministry of Health to fight COVID-19. The country's budget boss raised concerns that while the ministry received huge cash to donations running into billions, Auditor General Nasi Gathungu has not scrutinized its books to ascertain whether the funds were used prudently. The expenditure on COVID-19 pandemic interventions is yet to be audited, Nyakango said in her 2020-2021 budget implementation review report for the national government. Nyakango said that the audit should establish whether the funds were utilized for the intended purposes as required by the law. And when that audit will be taken, and I'm sure, the Auditor General, I've seen she's been very busy auditing, and every time she audits government institutions, counties, there's always issues that come up when it comes to mismanagement of public money, theft, corruption, and all the bad things that we know surrounds our public service. So if the audit is carried out, what is likely to come out? Are we likely to see clear books there at the Ministry of Health? Sharon. Okay, Sharon, are you there? All right. Okay, so we seem to be having a problem with our connection this morning. And so we will take a short break. And then after that, we'll come back because there's something I also want us to talk about. And then we'll get into another topic on Africa. And so don't go too far. Good morning, Africa. We'll be right back.